Well, good morning, everybody. Chris Williams here. We're talking virtual administrators, virtual assistants, the virtual staffing Q&A today. Well, I'll give us just a second, make sure we're all queued up here and ready to go. I've got a list of questions here that everybody sent in on the Q&A questions, like how do you make that work? What can what's up, Michael? What can a VA actually do? How do you process that? How do you go through workflows? A lot of questions around that. How do you keep accountability going? I want to make sure we hit all of those. But before we do that, again, let's just make sure we're queued up here. I think we're good. If y'all can hear me okay and see me okay, give me a thumbs up. What's up, Lisa? Great to see you. Lisa, I am super interested in what you're doing right now in your own work. I would love to catch up on that, but we can do that at another time. Andrew, great to see you. Hope the train's working out for you. Barbara, great to see you too. Okay. If y'all can hear me, give me a thumbs up. Something, just make one float up to the screen just so I can make sure audio, video is rocking okay. And then we'll jump in this thing. We'll talk VAs and the process around that we use in our agency. Okay, cool. What's up, Mike? So let's do this. VAs, virtual staff members, virtual administrators. There's lots of ways that fleshes out. Anybody who doesn't work with you locally, like literally sitting in the same office with you, is technically a virtual staff member. I'm technically a virtual staff member, I guess, when it comes down to that. So my team and I, we don't work together at all. I've only met one person on my staff ever in the agency I run now. And I actually love that, and our staff do too. So they're all virtual. I live in Memphis, Tennessee. We have them around the US and then several overseas, and it's great. And then we outsource in addition to that. So the virtual staff members, when I say virtual staff members, I mean somebody who's truly working for me or my organization, right? They're actually on my payroll as an employee or as a 1099 contract employee type relationship. And that's kind of the model we follow. We love that 1099 employee type model so that everybody has their freedom. But we also want to make sure that people have their life. So let's talk about virtual staff and how you find what kind of virtual staff member you need first off. So categorically, the VA title, virtual administrator, virtual assistant, that's typically more of that basic level, email, calendaring, messaging, doing some early stage marketing, messaging on Instagram, Facebook, whatever, that kind of thing for you. Handling correspondence back and forth from your Google text and voice number could be one. Handling your email, handling calendar appointments, basic Q&A from your clients or prospects. A VA, a virtual administrator or virtual assistant, can do that kind of thing. I'm not minimizing their skill set as an individual or what they're capable of. We'll get into that in a second, but typically that's kind of entry-level VA type work. Then you get into project type VAs or virtual staff members that are actually handling more complex projects and tasks. That might be video editing. It might be actually generating work for you. It might be completing websites. If you're in graphic design, it might be doing graphic work. If you're a copywriter, it might be helping with copy. There's lots of things that virtual staff can do. They can do anything you can do, just somewhere else, right? And the digital world makes that super easy. Now, in my experience, and I'm going to get to the questions in a second, I'm just trying to give you some framework here. In my experience, I've hired dozens of virtual staff members over the years, past 3 agencies. And I love working with virtual team members because I love being virtual. So I start people off by looking for the need that I have. So I typically hire in my weaknesses. I know my strengths pretty well, and I know my weaknesses really well because they're glaring. I'm horrible at the little details. I'm horrible at spelling. I'm horrible at seeing a project through to the end. I'm horrible at getting a big idea and then having a million other ideas pop in my head and having it get all organized. So I find people who are hyper organized and love building systems and processes around me. I need a babysitter. I hate to say it that way, but we're all grown-ups here watching ourselves, right? So I need a babysitter. So I'm looking for people who can keep me in check and keep me accountable and keep me moving forward with the skill sets that I have, which is understanding that big vision and taking those big things and putting them down into step-by-step action points that make sense. That's me. Okay. So first off, I hired administrators that would help me with calendaring, emailing, that kind of stuff. And I made sure I was hiring for those specific skills, people who are highly organized, highly processed. And then some of those folks moved into more project management. Then I started hiring people who actually were made for project management, made for meaning their natural skill set was a broader view and they could see a bigger scope of things and actually start hammering out those big projects. I've had VAs completely run podcasts that I set up. One VA I'm thinking of right now, Sai, she's amazing, and she actually completely ran a podcast project we were going. Another VA, we hired her to do transcription. She's still on our staff. She's been with us for years, and now she handles lots of social media for us and a lot of our clients. She's amazing too. She actually does a lot of creative writing for us too. There's lots of ways you can do that. Kimberly on my virtual staff, some of you all have met her, and she like runs my world. She's also our director of marketing at Scenthold, my agency. She's virtual. She started out as an administrator for me, handling calendaring and emailing. Quickly, her obvious skill set was way beyond that. We have another virtual staff member who handles lots of production and lots of content creation for us here stateside in the US. Lots of projects they can do. Bottom line is though, when you're finding a VA to go ahead and start tackling some questions, like in fact, I'm going to go ahead and hit one from that popped up yesterday when we announced this thing. Andrew, you're still hanging out in here. Hope the train Wi-Fi holds out for you there somewhere in Scotland. So Andrew, what kind of task can you hand off to a VA? I've always thought they needed to be very clearly defined, and if not repetitive, would need a lot of instruction / supervision. Okay, there's two questions from Andrew. I'll hit that one first. That's a really good question. So I hand off the task. Here's how I pick the first task I hand off. It's a new VA structure, never done it before. Here's what I hand off first. Excuse me. I hand off the things that take the most amount of my time, that I'm not good at. That's typically what takes the most amount of my time and brings me the least amount of pleasure and joy in my workday. So most amount of my time, not good at or don't like doing, that are highly repetitive, easy to build a system or project or plan around. So for instance, I'm horrible at getting back to emails and messages. I'm horrible at my own calendaring. So that is handled exclusively by other people. I never touch that. So that's an easy thing to replicate though. You can find a VA that's pretty simple to find, and they can handle all of your email and calendaring. You can actually go through in a screen recording like this and then pop up your screen and say, hey, here's my inbox right now. I'm going to go ahead and knock out today's emails. And literally for an hour, just sit there and do your emails while you're recording it, drop it into Google Drive, and a new VA can watch that and see how that goes day in, day out for you, and then start to do that with you. Or you can share a screen and do that live with a VA if you can match your calendars and times up, and they can start taking it off. It takes about 2 or 3 weeks to hand off email and calendaring if you're kind of new at it. Our processes are pretty tight now, and we share those in some groups. Our processes are pretty tight, so we can actually hand that off in typically a day or two. But then there's nuances, right, to emailing and calendaring. There's probably 80% of the emails you get that are pretty predictable, 20% that might need your involvement. So that VA starts to learn and understand how you think, how you process, and actually how you go through the action of answering those creative questions. And we build templates. Every time there's a creative question that comes back in, then I'm like, I get that question a lot, but you kind of need some coaching on that. We actually copy that question in a Google Doc. We put a response in there. And then as that question comes in for the next 3 to 5 times, that VA checks with me, hey, here's the question. Is the templated response still okay? And they begin to learn and massage the template, and they begin to understand my thinking, and they become like a whole nother brain of mine sitting right there doing it. Same with calendaring, pretty straightforward. A lot of that stuff can be automated now. In our agency, we're very high touch, very much a concierge agency. We're a high ticket agency, and we don't want to do automation any more than we have to. So we try to really handle all of our own agency work, calendaring, all that very, very personally if possible. Okay, how do you make sure they have enough tasks to keep going with? I hate to be paying a VA to twiddle their thumbs. So if you're just starting out with a VA, I would get a VA part-time. Now you can buy with some VA agencies, if it's basic staffing and administrative tasks, calendaring, that kind of thing. You can actually buy blocks of hours with some VA agencies where you hire or you buy 20 hours or 50 hours or 100 hours from the agency, and they make sure someone is handling tasks for you, and you burn the hours as they use them. 5 hours one day, no hours for the next week, doesn't matter, it just goes against your total, like a prepaid cell phone plan or something like that. There's also, and I prefer this, I prefer to have a VA that's dedicated to me. I've worked a lot with the group staffing organizations where you buy a block of hours, but it could be anybody. And that gets pretty messy, particularly if a VA is working. They say, well, no, you're going to be assigned your own VA. If they're working with, 10 other people and you just have an hour a day of their time, they're working 10-hour days, they're really not that engaged and they just can't be that focused on everything you do. So I prefer to find someone who's looking for like 10, 20 hours a week that I can hire at that early stage level and get them started, have them helping me. And as my time frees up, as they take tasks off my hands, then I can go and produce more, prospect more, understand how to get those clients more, get a few new clients. Then I can hire the VA for more time and I can build on time with the VA as they free up my time to produce and get more clients. That way I'm not wasting money with them, but I'm also scaling as I go. So finding that VA is possible. There's a lot of folks out there who want to be at home. They might have children at home. They might have other responsibilities. They might have another job and they want to do some VA work in the evenings for 2 hours a night to pick up some extra cash. Lots of ways to do that. And you can find someone who can actually help you start that. I've used virtualstafffinder.com to find staff in the Philippines. I love our Filipino staff. They're just the best. They're so cool. I've never visited the Philippines, so want to. Can't wait till I get to. They're just amazing people. We've loved working with folks over there. We've worked with people all over the world. For me and our organization, we found that people in the Philippines are very easy to work with from an American perspective. Culturally, it's easy to relate there. That's just what it is. So we found some great results there. We also have used Worldwide 101 to find virtual staff members. They staff people out of the UK, Canada, and US, a higher ticket price there, but different skill sets. And if you need somebody with a native English speaking skill, that might be the route to go. Lots of our VA staff actually handle lots of our native English speaking tasks because they're very good with English. That just depends on, my Spanish is horrible. My wife's Spanish is pretty good. Some of your Spanish is amazing, even if you don't live in a Spanish speaking culture. So, there's obviously lots of variation in wherever you go. So we look for that depending on our price tag and our budget in different locations. And then, yes, you might waste a couple hours here or there, but I promise you, if you're diligent about teaching what you do, documenting it in video format, then letting them document it in a set of Word documents or something where they can follow a process, have templates, and stick with it. And don't think that you have to be involved in everything. You can hand off an enormous amount of your time to someone else, freeing you up to prospect and actually do what you're best at, which is getting some more dollars in the door and getting some big projects started. That way you can hire more staff and you can keep that cycle going. Okay. I take full advantage of that. Anytime my time gets freed up, anytime I can hand off a task or project to a virtual staff member, any of our staff members at any level, I absolutely do it because my time is best spent in building. I'm a builder and that's what I need to be doing. Okay. So hope that answers those questions. Another question I got in a private message yesterday. Let's see if I can find it. VA pricing. How do you know how much to pay? What should I expect? That kind of thing. Good question. So it depends on where you hire from. If you're hiring in UK, Canada, stateside, US states, you're probably going to be in that $15 to $30 range, depending on the skill set. That's just because you're going to be at a higher dollar amount culturally, and you're also going to be potentially, hopefully, hiring a really good project manager or something like that. Again, you can find excellent project managers and high skill sets in any other country. Some of the other countries, though, are going to be a little bit based on your conversion rate and the value of your currency, wherever you happen to be. It might be a better value. For our staff in the Philippines, I'd say we typically have hired those beginning stage VAs. Sorry, I'm thinking back because we have a really good hiring process now. I don't have to do it as much. I would think, I'm thinking we're like, $200 to $300 for a part-time. Let's just equate it this way. I think you're going to land in that $5 to $7 an hour range. Let's just say that $5 to $8 an hour range. For that kind of work. Estimates, sorry, I don't have exacts, but if you plan in that kind of thing, there you go. Of course, with someone who's not a native speaker of your language, whatever your language happens to be, if you need the sentence structure and syntax to be exactly right in email correspondence or something, you got to template more of those processes, but you might be able to find a much better value per hour outside of your country of origin. It depends on where you are. That is the questions I have so far on VAs. Another question. Okay, hang on. One more in private message. Okay, I'm just kind of rephrase this one real quick. I think this makes sense. Um, yeah, VA staffing, accountability, hiring, firing. How do you deal with accountability when you can't see someone working day in day out? That's a super good question. Now, some of the VA systems we worked in the past actually screenshot the person's computer and make sure, like, if there's no mouse movement or if the screen's not changing, you can actually look at on their processes. We got away from that. I was not the guy who was ever going to take the time to go back and actually watch a 30-minute long slice of every, 30 seconds or every 10 minutes or whatever of someone's day on their screen. I just don't need to know that much. And I want our virtual staff to be free to live their lives. That's why I like being virtual. So we make sure that we know the projects and we understand kind of how long that should take. You know your workflow. And you might say, well, my emailing or calendaring takes me 2 hours a day. Honestly, every time I put a VA on my emailing and calendaring, it takes them less time than it takes me because they're better at it, right? They're better at those details than I am. So typically we try to get a really good idea of how long this project should take. If you're one of the fastest ever at that project, then give a little buffer. Maybe it's going to take them twice as long or 50% more time as they're learning. But you'll begin to track and understand how long projects should take, and you'll become more aware of if it's happening the right way. Or you can do those accountability screenshots if you like. We do reviews every month. When they're when they're first starting out, we do a review at 30 days. So we actually have a job review. We're actually reviewing their performance. This happens for all of our staff members at the 30-day mark, then again at the 90-day mark, then again at the 6-month mark, and then we do reviews every 6 months. Reviews are kind of when raises and all that stuff happen if that's appropriate. But we want to make sure at the 30-day mark, we have a really honest conversation that's just, is this working for everybody? And hey, by the way, here's how we score you as an employee. Here's how we review things. And this one doesn't count. It's just a good, honest conversation so you know it's coming. At the 90-day place, that will count. So 30 days, hey, we've had a great time. You're fit. We love you. So glad you're here. And here's how your 90-day review is going to play out. And if we were grading you right now, here's how that would go. Does that make sense? Any questions? We don't want any surprises in our review process, in our accountability process. Then at 90 days, that one actually gets documented. And it's usually a really great process. The coolest thing about that 30-day thing is you can have that kind of 30-day time frame where everybody's on probation, and if it's not working out, they can say, hey, we'd like to get out of here, or you can say it's not working out and help somebody move on graciously. We've actually had virtual staff members say, hey, love you as people, but the way you do your agency, I just don't want to have to function this way. I don't want this much process. I don't want to have to be this kind of employee. Totally fine. We want them to have the freedom to go live their life just as fairly as we want to live ours. So that's how we do accountability. If you have to fire someone, we've had to do that. Obviously, that's life. You have to be really careful with passwords, right? So it's all virtual and digital stuff. They're in your Google Drive, social media accounts, email, calendaring, whatever else you got them in. We use LastPass for all the password sharing. That way we can quickly change a block of passwords or quickly unconnect any access that anybody has. LastPass is who we use for all of our password. And then with each person's access, they have access to only certain files in our Google Drive, right? Or certain projects in our task and project management suite. You can actually sort those out by who needs to have them. And we just keep a list of here's the employee and here's what they have access to. And we update that as it goes on. That way, if we do have to let someone go, we can quickly look down the list and go click, 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 and uncouple our process from them. And typically we uncouple that before we change the passwords, lock everything down before we actually have the conversation of we have to let you go, just in case anybody wants to jump back in there and fight with that in any way. We've never had that situation come up. I have in previous roles I've fulfilled in my past experience, and I just never want to have to deal with that. So that's how we do accountability, hiring, and a little bit of firing. That's all the questions I have on this one. If there are any more questions, I'm looking over here in the chat for this video. If not, I hope that was helpful, and I will dodge out of here, and I will see you guys again. If you're awesome, and I'm so glad you're here. And if you have your own creative agency and you're actually running it and you're building and growing and needing staff and needing something to help you, like get some of the projects and tasks, the minutia off your plate so that you can be awesome and go build a new client, start a new project, grow, please do it. I know it's a big scary jump. It's people. It might take you 3 rounds to find the right person. You might spend the next 3 months hassling with it, but it's so worth it because you could have done it 6 months ago or a year ago and you'd be so much freer now. So don't let yourself get 6 months or a year from now and think, man, I should have gone ahead and taken that pill and just gotten it done and built the processes. Get started, do screen recordings, find the right person, hire them at a small budget level, small amount of hours, and grow with them. Be kind, be amazing with them as the boss you'd want to be if you were working for you. Just help them grow, and they will grow with you. It's amazing. People are awesome. Great to see you all. Ben, Mike, Barbara, Andrew, Lisa, Michael, I'm checking out. See you all. If there's any more questions as y'all watch this, if you catch the recording later, feel free to pop them in the comments below and I'll do my best to answer them later. Talk to y'all soon. Y'all have a fantastic weekend.